Here is another one of our 625 square foot homes. We're going to put some green fascia board on this baby and throw an 8 and 12 roof pitch on it. Something like this might be a design you would use for a granny flat, or what now we're referring to as an ADU. And I believe ADU stands for accessory dwelling unit. So no grannies in the ADU, otherwise it would be a granny flat. So let's go ahead and take the roof off of it. And for those of you just watching this for the first time, this is about the 5th or 6th video in a series. You can also relocate the living room to the back and the kitchen to the front if that's also going to work better for your project. Leave all this area the same, or simply flip the entire floor plan over from front to back. Let's go ahead and install our ceiling joists, 2x6, 16 inches on center, and we're going to butt them halfway over the wall. And if we do that, we're going to have to install a strap at least every 48 inches. That's usually the minimum to create rafter ties for a gable roof. And then we're going to go ahead and block it down the center. I'll show you the blocks here in a little bit. And let's go ahead and head over to the other side here to show you where the ceiling joist will be sitting on top of the wall. With full bearing, we're not going to pull them back, even though you can. I believe the minimum distance is 1.5 inches that the ceiling joists need to have to transfer the load through the ceiling joist to the walls. So that would be a load-bearing situation. Go ahead and head over to the access hole, and then we can go ahead and install our ceiling backing. And I'm also going to run a row of mid-span blocks on both sides to provide you with another example of something you can do if that will work on your project. I don't think I have this in the other houses that I have for this playlist. Now I went ahead and installed the ceiling joist backing between the blocks here on this one. Next up, let's go ahead and head underneath, give you a view of the access opening along with the ceiling backing. And some of you are probably wondering why I didn't double up these joists, and that's because I didn't feel it was necessary. However, you might need to on your project. It will depend upon the structural engineer in your area. Now I went ahead and ran this all the way to the block. This can actually stop over here. I just kind of ran it over to get some better nailing for this backing. And again, something else you can do if it will work for your project, not necessary. Next up, let's head over to the exterior wall to show you where the backing will stop over here. It's going to be 1.5 inches away from the wall, because I'm going to be installing blocking in between the joist and the rafters. Also, we can take a look at the backing here. This block is going to notch. We're going to have a notch over the backing. Unlike over here where we butt the backing up against the block on each side, over here we notched the block and then ran this as a solid piece from this point to this point. Next up, let's take a look at how I staggered these blocks so that I could get better nailing. You can nail these blocks easier from both sides than you can if you have a situation like this, where the blocks are going to be in a straight line. So again, straight line, staggered and staggered. And let's go ahead and take a look at these two walls, what I did here. And I believe I described this in the other videos. These walls need to be stabilized. So if I can nail the backing to the wall and the joist, that'll be great. If not, I'm going to have to install some type of a block in between the joist and then nail that block to the joist and to the backing. Next up, let's go ahead and install our roof rafters. Take a look at the blocks, how they're going to notch over the ceiling joist, providing you with another method that might work better for your project. And the rafters are 2x8, everything 16 inches on center. Next up, let's build our gable wall. And I'm going to install a brace over here, a brace in the center, and a brace over here. And I'm also going to have those braces on the other side also. So we have our outer boards notched for our 2x4 lookouts, or outlookers, however you want to reverse that. We'll just call them our fascia board holder uppers. So here we have a brace. I went ahead and installed 2x6 flat backing here, and then installed a 2x6 here to help support the ridge a little bit better. And the reason why I did this is just to provide you with another example of something you can do if the wall framing studs are going to be longer than 10 feet. But again, to verify all this, you would have to check with your local building department, structural engineers, or contractors. And I went ahead and installed a block here in between the rafters so that I could attach the brace to the block and the rafter, and then attach it to the ceiling joist and the midspan block here. And of course I did the same on the other side. Go ahead and take a closer look at it. Another view there. Let's head up to the top. And you could have a situation where you got to get in between the rafter, your backing, or some other obstacles, making this brace a little more difficult to install. And if that's the case, simply attach it to one of the gable studs, or move it back and attach it to this rafter here, because something is usually going to be better than nothing when it comes to making a building stronger with braces. And again, you might not need those braces. I just kind of threw them in there to provide you with another thing that you might be able to do on your project. And of course, I didn't need this board to go all the way up. This board is meant to provide us with a little more nailing to connect the gable studs to the roof rafter, again making something a little stronger. Now I went ahead and I shaped the top of the roof ridge to provide better nailing for the roof sheathing, and I really think this is a good idea for steeper roof pitches. And next up, let's go ahead and install our fascia board, our lookouts here, and our outlookers over here. Let's just hope that pretty soon I don't start calling these outriggers. And if there's one thing I can say about the construction industry, they have a variety of different names for the exact same part, making your job as a do-it-yourselfer a little more difficult to figure out what they're actually talking about. So I hope I'm not messing you up here. Don't forget to install the collar ties, 48 inches on center. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at how these boards are notched into the roof framing rafter to provide cantilevered support to help hold up the fascia board. And I will be getting around to doing a video on people that just nail some 2x4s together and create some boxes and attaching it to the roof rafter with what I would consider to be substandard structural support. And I think the problems get even worse when you're dealing with heavy snow loads or the wrong building materials. And in this example, the bottom of the fascia board is shaped to provide us with some better nailing for our roof sheathing. And there you have it for our gable roof that is conventionally framed. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at a gable roof on the same floor plan that will be built with a lower slope and roof trusses and the backing, roof sheathing, and fascia board. And since it is a straight gable roof, it's not going to be that difficult to build. And I would imagine installing the trusses probably shouldn't take more than a day, maybe 8 hours. But that doesn't mean you can't do it faster or that it won't take a little longer. Let's go ahead and take a look at where the trusses are positioned. The trusses are laid out in this video so that we can start with an 8-foot piece of roof sheathing from the fascia board and then go this way with our layout. And then of course we would start with a 4-footer over here, and you'll get a better idea of what that's going to look like after the roof sheathing has been installed. So here we have our lookouts that are usually going to be 2x4s, 32 inches on center. And of course, you could always space them 24 inches on center so that they line up with the plywood or roof sheathing breaks. And you'll get a better idea what I'm talking about again towards the end of the video. And we are going to be using a plumb cut for our fascia board. You can always use a square cut if that's going to be easier. And we are going to have some roof spacing support boards like these right here to make sure that everything lines up 24 inches on center. The roof trusses are 24 inches on center in this video. And we will have an access opening into the attic. And it looks like there's plenty of room for an attic heating and air conditioning unit. And if there's enough interest in this video, I will go ahead and install a forced air heating unit to give you an idea of what it would look like in this home. Next up, let's take a look at the bracing for the roof trusses. And even though I don't have the bracing going all the way down to the top of the wall framing, you can always make that work. I just didn't do it in this video, just to give you another example. And the reason why I didn't do it, of course, right here, and maybe you can get a better view of it over here. The center of the roof trusses line up with the wall framing, but that doesn't mean you can't put a block in here and run that all the way down. And in this video, I did not leave a space between the bottom of the roof truss and the top of the wall framing, because I've gotten a lot of complaints from people who say you don't need to do it. And of course, that would be a question that your roof truss manufacturer could easily answer for you. And if you do need a gap, you might need to install a 1x4 instead of a 2x4 top plate on all of the walls that the roof trusses will be crossing over. And of course, our access opening there again, and then our backing. And this backing will provide us with a way to attach the drywall to the section over here where the roof trusses aren't going to be. Another common method for this type of assembly. Let's go ahead and remove the roof trusses, give you a better idea of what we're looking at. And we're using 2x4s here. And for those of you wondering why we don't have a piece of backing here, that should make a little more sense when we zoom in here and you figure out that we're going to be using the roof truss for the backing. And yes, every once in a while, the roof trusses line up perfectly, or at the very least close enough. Now, I didn't put any type of building hardware in here because if you're going to use this method right here, I don't see why you just can't toenail the roof trusses directly into the top plates. However, I have seen plenty of people use framing hardware like truss clips here, even though there's no gap in between the bottom of the roof truss and the top of the wall framing plate. If there is a gap, then you might consider using the building hardware. Don't forget that the bottom of the roof trusses might not be perfectly flat. They might have a little arc in them. And then that arc is meant to be taken out once the roof is loaded or the roofing materials have been installed. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at the bottom here of the ceiling. That'd be the ceiling in the living room. Let's go ahead and put our fascia board on. And again, since this is a straight gable roof, installing the fascia board shouldn't be that difficult. It's going to be a little more difficult sometimes when you have a little more chopped up roof. And I do have examples of that at our website if you want to take a look at those in the home building project area. So that would be the home building tab. Click on the tab at the top. And I believe on that page you should find a variety of different home building projects for those of you who are interested in that. Next up, let's go ahead and install our roof sheathing. We're going to be using 1/2 inch OSB, and you can always use thicker roof sheathing, along with a view of the outlookers here and an example of the outlookers not lining up with the roof sheathing. So for example, if I was to move these over a little bit, I could cover up the breaks here in the plywood and you wouldn't know what I was using up here. You wouldn't have any breaks. And you might be able to do that by spacing the outlookers at 24 inches on center to solve that problem there. Take a look at the top where the fascia board will connect to the ridge block. And the last thing I want to point out in the video is the roof sheathing, how I spaced the roof trusses so that an 8-foot piece of roof sheathing would break on the center of this roof truss, and a 4-foot piece right here would break on the center of this roof truss. And sometimes you might need to mess around a little bit with the roof truss layout to see what's going to be the best for your project. But since I already did that for you, I think we can go ahead and accept this as a pretty good layout design for this particular roof. And next up, let's take a look at our floor plan where we have 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom here, closet, bathroom, and then we have the front entry door here, rear entry door here, window in the kitchen, small kitchen, and room to where you can put a small table here, refrigerator, washer and dryer, living room. And of course it is 625 square feet, 25 feet wide, 25 feet wide the other way. And next up, let's zoom in on some measurements here to give you an idea what we're dealing with. And I'm just going to go ahead and scroll up here. And the whole reason for this is just to be able to provide you with some measurements in case you're planning on building a project like this. And I do not have any plans available to the public for this, and probably won't in the future. And of course, let's go ahead and zoom out here and head over to our next part of the video, where we will be taking a look at the framing. Now I'm going to use a 4-12 roof pitch with some trusses here, and I'll talk more about the roof trusses in the next video. So let's go ahead and take a tour around the house here, give you an idea of what the framing is going to look like. Now let's go ahead and remove the building so that we can take a look at the footing placement or location underneath the home. And even though I drew this footing in for future home designs, you will not need this if you're going to have a truss roof, because all of the interior roof loading will be transferred to the perimeter walls, which could save you a few dollars during the construction of your project. And of course, you will need anchor bolts. I didn't draw any anchor bolts in here to fasten the home to the building foundation. Next up, let's go ahead and install our walls. And again, take a look at the front of the house here. Bedroom, closet, bath, bedroom, kitchen area here, washer and dryer, living room. And what I want to do here is what I have done in previous videos, and that will be to break down the wall framing into sections, starting with the front wall and the back wall. Now the front and the back walls are going to be practically identical except for this window here and this one here. Next up, let's go ahead and head to the back wall, where we're going to have a smaller wall here in the kitchen, and that's going to be to provide us with a little more room for the countertop and its backsplash. And this is definitely something you should spend a little more time on when you're designing it. Do not let that become a mistake when you're building your project. I've seen it happen more than once. And of course, this wall right here, even though it's going to be the same length as the opposite wall, the wall on the other side, it's going to have 3 channels in it for the intersecting walls that will be connecting to it. Next up, let's go ahead and head over to the other side. 2 channels here and no windows. You can always add some windows in if you want to. And even though I don't have any anchor bolts in this video, you will need an anchor bolt within 12 inches of the bottom breaks and within 12 inches of the corners. Another problem that I see often, let's go ahead and install our walls to hide the washer and dryer. And of course, you wouldn't need these walls if you weren't worried about that. So we're going to have a washer and a dryer here and a refrigerator on this side, and then some base cabinets that will wrap around over to here, a sink over here, and then a range over here. I don't think you're going to have enough room for a dishwasher in that kitchen. And then these 2 walls here, again, will be identical, again, making the job a little easier. Next up, let's go ahead and add a few more walls. Our closet wall here, the wall here to separate the closets from the bathroom. And I don't have my tub backing in here. However, I will try to install that in a future video. Then our closet door and our bedroom door. Let's go ahead and head over to the other side where we have the same thing. Bedroom, closet door. And even though these 2 rooms are small, I don't consider them to be too small. I've seen some designs where the rooms are like 8 foot by 9 foot, where these are going to be a little larger. So the center wall here, and again, this is not a load-bearing wall. However, if we build a conventional roof with a conventional ceiling or roof rafters with ceiling joists, then this will turn into a load-bearing wall, or can turn into a load-bearing wall. I'm not about to suggest you can't use larger lumber to eliminate the concrete footing. However, that might not be cost effective. Again, our framing plate here, 4 foot away from the next break. And of course, all of our windows and doors will have 1 trimmer. You need double trimmers on doors and windows that are 5 foot or larger, kind of a common construction practice. And there you have it. This video was made out of 3 videos that I made a few years ago. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, let us know by hitting the thumbs up button or letting us know in the comment area.